The following video is about some of the most effective, I won't call it tools, but it plays a huge role in educational strategies to prevent corruption, to make people aware of corruption. What is corruption? Now, people always relate very positive to cartoons and stories and metaphors. So today I focus on some metaphors to bring across to people. And if some of the examples offend some people, then I apologize. But it is the message that's important. Some of the metaphors, for example, corruption, because people have been written, I've written myself about corruption. And corruption is like a cancer. And not to offend people with cancer, but it's a lifestyle disease that, like with cancer, when your own cells, your own T cells, and your bone marrow actually turning against your own cell development, then you get metaphors. But some forms of cancer is a lifestyle disease, not all forms. Because also you get genetic cancer. But in cancer, the brain and the mind also plays a very critical role. So people with other types of diseases are also more vulnerable to cancer. So it is cancer is a and I've written an article about that that I've presented at the Limpopo South-POM conference in the 2015 about the cancer as a metaphor, and also HIV/AIDS is a metaphor. And I think it's important that cancer is growing. You can receive chemotherapy, radiation, but it's a very devastating disease that can be solved, for which some solutions have been found already, but it's completely against the mainstream pharmaceutical business that wants to make more money, and therefore cancer solutions have not been popularized. Because of the control of the pharmaceutical and medical industry, and the main manufacturers of pharmaceutical products as a mega business to prevent people from knowing how to solve cancer. Now, corruption is also like a spider web. The kingpin sitting in the middle, the spider, and everybody transgressing on the web provides a vibration of low energy that trickles down towards the kingpin, the spider in the middle, and either in terms of early warning, as some anti-corruption institutions in countries are actually act as early warning systems, like our own anti-corruption commission. I perceive as an early warning system, warning politicians in charge and in control of corruption, to warn them against people that are speaking up against them. Now, the Cybercrime Act instituted in Namibia recently, that is becoming, or the bill that's becoming an act, also will provide the police without the need to have internet to tap the phone of anybody on any social media platform, and that can further serve as an early warning system to spy on people, spy on their phones. If you say, for example, anything against any minister that is against the fundamental freedoms of people that should exist in any country. So the spider network is very useful to understand the large network of people associated with the corrupt and those in the middle that control the corruption. Like a kingpin in the mafia network, Sicilian, Italian, Danish, Jewish, Nigerian, and so can also be compared with a spider web. And you can also compare it with a sociogram, number of people that's connected to a specific person that is corrupt, that is in control of corruption in a country. For example, a dictatorship. A dictator can be in control of corruption, and a country can benefit from a dictator that is in control of corruption because he wants a more efficient system so that he can benefit more from the corrupt system. So to explain it that way. Now, another metaphor for corruption is also corruption is like a virus. We can compare it with the COVID-19 virus. It creates fear with people, fear of being exposed, fear of the unknown, and fear of a limited time limit in order to reap the benefits of corruption, because before they are exposed, or in this case, before they die, or being sent to jail, or before a scandal erupts in the newspapers. So corruption is like an ever-evolving, mutating virus that exists in the dark. Like COVID-19 flourished not in the sunlight, but it flourished in the dark. And people were locked up during, put it that way, during lockdown, stay in rooms, not receiving sunlight. And that is typical of corruption also, that corruption happens in the dark corners, under the table deals, not officially known, and not officially declared, not agreed in terms of contracts, but only in terms of mutual agreements between different parties, where things are not being put on paper. So the corruption, one can say, is not only comparable with a very deadly virus, but also with darkness. People that have been locked down during COVID-19, not being exposed to sunlight deliberately in order for the virus to spread. Instead, if people have been given the opportunity to have seen the sun, to be exposed to the sun, open air, then the COVID-19 virus would have died much quicker and earlier and not have its devastating impact. It is similar to corruption. When corruption has been exposed, open, transparent in the media, on social media, all forms of media, then the society acts as a checks and balance. That's the most profound remedy against corruption. So one can say that transparency and sunlight is like ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, for addressing a virus such as corruption. Corruption can also be described in many different manifestations. There are hundreds of different masks or manifestations of corruption. So when one went to a party where people wear masks, this is how typically corruption is. You don't know people that is corrupt unless their masks are being removed during a party. Then sometimes you only then realize who they are. It is the same with exposing people that are corrupt. The moment where people are ending up in courts, and some never ending up in courts, like the SME corruption case in Namibia, nobody have been in court yet, despite the corruption have taken place, I think in 2017. only then you know actually the role of the chairman of the board of directors of the SME bank, the 3 different chairmen, of which one was a secretary to cabinet, one currently a minister, and another one an executive directly. Only then you know their role in corruption when they are being exposed. So that is what we can call the masks of corruption. Are comparable with what we call manifestations or forms or types of corruption, to understand corruption better. Corruption, politicians are most of the times in control of corruption because they abuse their power. They abuse state machinery for the benefit of providing tenders to those that have been very favorable to them in donations during pre-election times. And then after election, it's payback time for those businesses that have donated towards politicians. And that's why people need to declare their donations to political parties. So the point here is that people in control of corruption, the politicians, can be compared to the lions. The power-hungry politicians, power-hungry lions that are sleeping most of the time, some of them in parliament, and benefiting and reaping from the vulnerable in society. And another form is comparable is hyenas that feed from the vulnerable in society. Now, mostly banks can be compared to hyenas because they feed from the vulnerable in society. When people can't keep up their payments to the bank, then it is common practice in Namibia and most countries in the world where banks then take back the home of a person, sell the home off at a profit, or repair the home and then sell it off sell the home off, recoup their loss and make a profit and sell it then to a next person, while the original owner is still accountable for paying back the remaining of the loan. So we can also call that double dipping. So banks can be examples of hyenas in society that feed on the vulnerable, given that they make the profit from the difference between the repo rate, where the central bank lend money to them, and then also the prime rate. And then they only have to keep 10% of the money and in the bank, and the rest can be lent out. That makes them very vulnerable if anybody wants, or if a lot of people want their money back, when the banks then collapse and governments bail out banks, as happened during the 2008 financial crisis in America, where the major banks have been bailed out by government to prevent their collapse. But then other forms of corruption is, or metaphors that can be used to explain corruption is like an iceberg. You only see the top above the water, but the rest is lying down the surface. And you can damage your ship or your canoe going in a specific direction and think that the iceberg is still very far away. Same with corruption in Namibia. We read about the corruption in newspapers. But we think that corruption is tiny, we see on the surface. But actually we are already damaging our sea vehicle long before you even can see the corrupt on the surface. And I think this is a very powerful example, comparing the extent, the magnitude of corruption in a systemically corrupt country like Namibia like Zimbabwe, like Venezuela, with an iceberg. You don't know what you are dealing with until you have actually damaged your vehicle, your seaworthiness has been compromised. Now, a fish eagle can spot a fish from very far in a river. We have in Namibia, one of our national symbols is the fish eagle. The ability to spot with such distinctive clarity the smallest detail on the surface in order to catch a fish. Now, that is how it's supposed to be. Society should be looking at the people that's appointed in public offices, and because we expect them to represent the values of society with such clarity and distinctive vision. We as society and the watchdogs of society, like the Anti-Corruption Commission and several other watchdogs, and the public, and every one of us should have an eye on exposing corruption to the benefit of everybody. We can also compare it with an albatross at sea with the highest wingspan of all birds at sea that can travel for thousands of kilometers, and seeing very clearly on the surface of the sea when there is something to hunt for. Now, it is very clear that one can use many different forms of metaphors for exposing corruption, especially in an educational point of view, as previously stated. The pirates in the Caribbean can also be Mediterranean, can also be used as compared to hippos. Hippos is the most dangerous water animal, but also one of the most dangerous land animals. So these pirates are like hippos in the water, also monitoring the area between Eritrea and Ethiopia, and in the Mediterranean Sea, where they also benefiting from ships in the sea and also steal and loot from ships at the sea. So there was also a movie made, The Beekeeper, 2023, that is still on show during 2024, where the purpose of the beekeeper is to expose corruption and protect the hive, and in which all the bees also contribute to the protection of the hive. Now, there is another metaphor, and that is the word propolis. Propolis is a Latin word, and it means in defense of the city. Polis means city, and pro means in defense of the city, in defense of the city, meaning the beehive and the apiary. They glue a material made from tree gum and several other tree resins together to seal some parts of the hive off, to prevent bee beetles to enter the hive unprotected, for example. Also to prevent other type of birds, animals, or ants to enter the hive. So in defense of that, that's why it's got that name. So we as society should operate like bees that are all binded by the same pheromone of the queen, in spotting corruption, in identifying corruption, and exposing corruption, and removing it from the hive. So with these few metaphors for educational purposes, I hope you have a better understanding now of spreading the knowledge to people, raise awareness about corruption, because corruption has got an antidote, and that is the sunlight, that is transparency. And all of us should be part of that, bringing corruption into the sunlight. The sun, one of the biggest forms of energy, with high vibrations, to change low vibrations of energy that feed on the evil of, and also from the low vibration emotions of people. So it is evil energy. So the sun is so important in the for the Khoi, the sun people, what we call the Bushmans, and it was already called in Egyptian times Ra, the sun god, not for any other reason, but we receive our energy from the sun in exposing corruption. So the sun plays then also a rigid role in some ethnic groups, and in the ancient times as well. And it's understandable that it also plays a similar metaphor in exposing corruption and changing low vibrational energy in towards positive high vibrational energy, so that people can be motivated to expose corruption, to inspire people, exposing corruption. And that's the positive message about using these metaphors. And with this metaphor of the sun, and being in the sun, because one doesn't clean your fingernails in the dark because you will not be able to see, but you went into the sunlight, you go into the sunlight, and then you clean your fingernails. And also many different diseases, and corruption is a disease, actually occur and it flourish in the darkness, where there's moist, where there's a lot of feeding ground for the corrupt to feed on, compared to when everything is in the sunlight and in the open, where corruption cannot exist, and any virus died in sunlight. Any dirt has been removed in the sunlight. Everything is much clearer in the sunlight. Even the darkest of the colors, like black, for example, are becoming very hot in the sunlight, and that's typical of light colors, like white, is then transcending vibrations, what we can associate with anti-corruption programs and people that with higher level of vibration and energy, spreading hope and bliss in a more enlightened world, as Jesus, Christ have done it, Buddha, and several other grandmasters. Thank you.